Alright, I guess it's time to get this stream started. You may notice that there's a lot of sun in this morning. I guess we'll have to live with that. So just a quick question for the people in chat. Is the sound good? You can hear me well, and the music is not too loud. I actually myself can't hear the music, it's just being streamed directly to the stream without me hearing it at all. Anyway, so the previous stream, we thank you Rasmus for confirming the sound is good. So the previous stream we just did the bare bones of a plugin. So we have now a project file, the very basic plugin, the most minimal part of it, and the most minimal command that types just something on the screen. We are going to continue with the command today. So and as with the previous session, just the code that we're going to write today is going to be in this repository. So just go to yesterking/RHICS, so Rhino C#, and then in the folder yester live code. I intend to put more code in here, but for now, for this project, everything goes in the yester live code. So I've been trying to think of what it is, what I'm going to implement here, and for now I think what I'm going to do is have a command that is going to add a simple object, and the command is going to have three options for the dimensions of the object, and the object will be just a simple box. And while the command is running, there will be a conduit, display conduit, showing what kind of box would be added to the document when you accept the settings for the command. So let's take out the one backtick. I just noticed that there is one in the maybe also the dot, because that's just not necessary. Anyway, we are going to build out the run command code now by adding three options and a custom input, essentially. So let me get this one up. So what we are going to do is have with custom input, we are going to do I'm actually not sure what I'm going to do, probably a GetPoint. GetPoint is over here, of course, in the final version. But for now, I want to start easy and be a bit lazy, so I think I'm going to start with just a get string and not pay attention to what the string actually is going to be. I could do actually the same for point. Maybe that's also a good idea, because the point I would then use as insertion point for the object. Let me see. Yes, I think let's do that. And as always, in chat, feel free to post questions or comments if you think I am doing something wrong, or you have just questions about what's going on. just ask the questions and I try to address them when I see them. I have the chat box quite big, so I should be able to notice those questions. Anyway, to be able to use the input rhino.input.custom namespace, we need to import it as well. So actually I'm going to remove this print out because that's not what we're going to use. And so the basic structure of this command implementation is going to be add command options, and then we're going to add or create, or maybe GetPoint, and then there will be a loop in which we are going to go over the how should I say it? We're going over the results that our GetPoint command is going to generate for us. So how this works in Rhino is that we have like a GetPoint, and every time you'll ask something, so every time the user does some interaction with the command on the command line, like change one of the options, there will be a certain type of result from that command, and that we are going to handle in such a way that so GetPoint we want to have, and then we want to look for the option output. So let's do it like this. Maybe also actually write out what I just said. So for now the old print that's no longer valid, so we want to add an object with given dimensions to a place where the user has picked a point, right? Oh, so the main structure looks a bit like this. We are going to add, after these two code fragments, still the actual the looping through it, or maybe I should just add right away handle command or get loop. First we need to add the command options. In our case, we are going to use just simple integer options for the dimensions of the box. The box actually. So I just specified or clarified in this section that we're going to add a box. So to be able to use the custom input classes, we need to ensure we have the proper namespace. Edit. So you may or may not recall that we have a fragment called first command usings, and at the beginning I added only Rhino and Rhino commands, but now I need to also add this rhino.input.custom namespace. So I'm going to extend that this first command usings fragment. So it's still C#, and it's first command usings equals plus. Let's do also the closing backticks at the same right away, so we don't forget. So that would be using rhino.input.command. Oh. Now we are able to use all classes provided by the namespace rhino.input.custom. I'm typing already there. So let's custom. Right. So let's work out the add command options. C# add command options is our fragment named options, and closing code block. Then we are going to add several. So option integer is what integer is what we need. So option integer let's do width option, and then we call it new option integer, and then actually I'm going to also introduce several help variables. So this would be the width, and let's have it run from 1 through to what will be good. Let's do just 50, conservative. And let's also add for so I'm going to change width of the second line to length. If you're wondering where I'm typing, down at the bottom of my Visual Studio Code in the status bar, you see, let me see, here I'm typing a command. I'm going to replace width with length. So on that line I have the middle line selected, so I have no length, and then I'm going to select the last line, and for that I'm going to replace width with height. Again, as said, we need a couple of integers still, help integers, and these we are going to use to hold and receive the changed values. So int width, let's start with, why not with 10? So a box of 10 by 10 by 10. Int height, oh, let's do first length, same order as the rest, and int height. So now we have 3 options, and then as mentioned, we want to add the box to a user picked position. Yunus mentioning that there is no IntelliSense here, and actually this is more a shortcoming of my own plugin that I'm using here. So I'm using my literate programming plugin here, and at the moment it does not do language facilities like IntelliSense or code completion. I could do it, I've been planning on doing it, but at the moment it's not there yet. And yes, of course, having code completion would be really useful. I hope to have it added at some point in the future. But then again, this way of typing kind of bit forces more searching through the documentation, and that can be also a good thing. A bool option. What if we add one bool option is a question. Not sure what exactly you mean by that, but it would work the same way as adding an integer option, just except it's using a boolean value instead of an integer. For now, I'm going to continue with integer. Perhaps later on in the stream we figure out that we do want to add some kind of boolean, maybe to drive some sort of option, visualization option on the object that we're going to add. Okay, so the plan I hope to do is right now start with just a simple box, but when we build this plugin out a bit more, make the box essentially in a custom object that with which we'd have also a simple panel available in Rhino, through which you would then be able to change the dimensions, and it would automatically update the object. And maybe then a bool option would be useful to tell how the changes would be affected. Should it be to both sides from a center point, or do we want to grow from say the lower left corner and then add the length? So maybe it's about what kind of insertion point do we add on the bounding box center, the box center, or one of the corners. But we can revisit this code then at that point. So we want the user to pick a point. So let's do that. For, as mentioned, we want to add a box to a user pick point. For that, we need the GetPoint. Let's add this. Control right, yes. The GetPoint. Class. So I guess that's going to be the new fragment, which was, what did I call it? Also for the fragments I want actually a code completion. So when you start typing those pointy brackets, that it would start suggesting those fragments that have been seen already. So this is a new fragment, and we are going to add here GetPoint equals new GetPoint, and that so we can use the point class, and we can add the options to the instance of the class when we have one. So that is going to be GetPoint. GetPoint add in option integer, okay, and that would be the first one is width, and then we pass in a reference to the width option, and then I'm going to copy paste again and just do width. Maybe in this case it's actually easier to just do like this because it's two different 5, so that's 5x length, 5x, and that would be height. So I think we now have all the fragments. Just let's run the literate process. Oh, there was an error. What did I do now? Oh yes, I had this handle get loop. So let's just add a very empty fragment for that. Now we can start handling the get loop. I'm not entirely sure how I should phrase this, so I probably am going to rewrite this bit later on, but for now let's get going. Handle get loop, I believe I called it right, yes. Handle get loop, yes. Equals, oh, that's not an equals sign. Right. Let's again process completed, as it says here in the bottom right, so at least that went fine. Let's look at the command code now. So as we wrote in our documentation right away is how we are going to do this, and this is the code that's now realized, but this is not in itself enough, so we need to actually implement this handling part. And personally I haven't yet found a satisfying way of doing this. For now I think I'm going to use an eternal loop. That means that we have to be careful in ensuring that there is a way to exit the loop, because eternal loops obviously are not very good for usability from user perspective. So the loop will be essentially an eternal loop with proper exit conditions sprinkled throughout the loop. And that at the moment is a bit unclear even for me when I read this, but we'll improve this bit when we go along. And as said, these streams these are not pre-written parts. It's just we're going to go through writing a plugin from scratch and making all the mistakes anybody, or at least I, will be making. Yes. I'm thinking a bit how I am going to do this. So we essentially just want the user to click a location, and then I have to figure out how to do this properly. I was initially going to do just using a get string approach, and then I would just always ask the user to press enter. But well, let's just implement the current state and then see how it works. So the eternal loop. And maybe first write it right down here. So yeah, I think we actually want also to add something on the command line to tell the user what to do, so they are not wondering what's going on after just having started the command. So let's add here it is also good to tell the user what is expected from them. So let's set the command prompt to select a location. Yeah, that's fine. So GetPoint is our instance, and we are going to do a SetCommandPrompt. Right. No. Wait. Pick a location. Yeah, that should be fine. And enter when done, I guess. we'll see how that actually goes. So right now, oh, that's a bit too much. So we do, so we will, what we get is a result. I'm actually not sure in what namespace our results is. Is it maybe in Rhino.input? Let me check our documentation. So if we have a GetPoint and there's a get result somewhere, let's see. Or maybe just get, yeah, right. And it gives a get result, which is in Rhino.input. And of course this would be given to us probably through code completion. But let's suffer a little bit. So in our earlier moment when we talked about the namespace, we are going to tell also that we need the Rhino input namespace. The Rhino get classes return also a get result, which is provided by the Rhino.input namespace. So let's add that as well using Rhino.input. Maybe for niceness we are ordering them at the moment. So we can do here a get result. Result is, and we had it called GetPoint get. So what this is doing is it's waiting for an input from the user at that point and doing nothing else really. A note for those who are familiar with C# and writing lots of code and use var, that's nice and good as well, of course, but especially for this type of streaming, but also for myself, I've actually started using the actual class names and data types for variables, just because it is much more clear than just var. Of course, var is only 3 letters. It can look nicer for a moment, but especially in larger code bases, I personally find it very annoying when there's only vars. I just want to see right at that point what I'm going to get without having to mouse over anything of the code. Because especially in a case like this, if you don't have code completion IntelliSense, you don't know exactly what you're getting, and this way, typing it out, you know what you're getting. And there's no doubt this is going to be a get result, nothing else. So, as said, handling a loop, we go through many, or the get point and all the get classes give many different things and results, and we now have also added options, so we have to handle these. So it will be something like if result equals, and that would be a get result.point. So the user has clicked somewhere in a viewport. We get code here. For now I do something. Oh. Or maybe just Rhino. I forgot what it was. Our write line. That's Rhino app, right? Rhino app.write line. try user clicked point. Let's do, wait, something like this. So user clicked point, so that would be a point 3D, I believe. Point equals GetPoint point. So first what you get is a result. It tells you what now is available in the GetPoint instance, and now that we know that it's a point that the user gave, we can get it from the GetPoint instance like this. So user clicked point. Right, and then let's just continue for now. And if result equals get result, and exactly at this point IntelliSense would be really useful, but we have our documentation, and I think it's good to get used to reading the documentation. But we want now so point we already handled, we want to handle option, and then we actually will do also cancel, so that we can actually exit the loop. So and I have to think a bit on how to discern again between these different ones. I think we just need to have all options read at the same time. So we already had the width, length and height variables introduced earlier, so we can reuse that. Let's do this. So width is equals, and that would be width option dot current value. And now we can copy paste these because it's easy to change those. Let's replace, substitute width with length for this line, and then let's do the same, or not the same, we're going to substitute with, not with length, but with height. Right. Rhino app, right line, and let's do also a formatted string here, so current given dimensions, and those are width times length times height. Right, and here we also just are going to continue, and continue here means we're going to jump back to the beginning of the loop, to here. So a point is clicked, we tell what point is clicked, now we go back to get a new input from the user. If we wouldn't do that, oh well, we do that anyway here. If we didn't have a loop, then it would just fall through after one input, so you change one option or you click once in a viewport and that's it. But we want to be able to change all the settings until we are happy. So for now I'm going to add the way to escape. So if get result.cancel cancel, then we are going to actually return. What do we need to return? We need to return a, since we are doing now a return here, we are returning actually from the command. So we need to return the result value for commands. And let's just have a look at the documentation. So we have input, oh, maybe not input, I just need Rhino commands. We need from the result, and we are going to do cancel. Right. So let's do that. Oh, wrong one. So return result.cancel, and we have to return a different value here because the get result is a different enum from result. Result comes from Rhino.command namespace, commands namespace, and get result comes from Rhino.input. So let's see. Generate our code. Just a quick check of what it looks like. Point 3D. So Visual Studio Code itself is able to do code completion, and we already see that Point 3D is actually in a Rhino.geometry namespace, and to be able to use that we need to actually add it also to our first command usings. So let's do that. It may be a bit of roundabout way using auto-completion or IntelliSense, but it works for me at this moment, at this point. So since we are going to get a point 3D instance, we need to ensure that we have the Rhino.geometry space available to us. Actually, I'm going to move this a bit after, since we are using. It's maybe a good way of explaining it. So after the scope block. So I hear some I'm not sure if it's construction work or cleaning outside, but if you hear some motor droning out from it's coming from outside, they're doing some cleaning, I guess. Since we are using, since we are getting, right, C#, and it is first command usings equals, and then we extend, so plus, and that would be using Rhino.geometry. And now we see there's no more errors in this command, at least IntelliSense errors. What is this problem? Unreachable code detected. Am I putting this in the wrong location? Wait. Ah, yes. Of course. Yeah, let's add one case here after all. So if we look again at the documentation of the get result enumeration, nothing, a user pressed enter, typically used to accept defaults. But what we can use it now for is that, so we already wrote on the command prompt that when ready, press enter, and we already had some default settings, so 10 by 10 by 10. And I guess when the user just hits enter, we are going to add it to world origin 000. But let's add here. So we first handle getting a point, then we are getting the options out, and then the enter if result equals get result dot nothing. So the enter has been pressed. We're going to break out of this command. And now we are going to do, I believe it was .NET build. Yes, I've been lazy again. I haven't added a build task. It would be, of course, smartest to just add a build task for this. But our code now compiled. What do I have here? Yeah, that was not the right Rhino I was clicking. So let's see, start Rhino, and I believe we already had yesterday live code dropped on it in the previous session, so it should already be there. But we can just quickly check by looking at the plugin manager as soon as Rhino starts, of course. It takes for a moment for some reason, not sure why. Oh yes, I know why, because I just had updated to Rhino 7.13 service release candidate, and I hadn't started after the updating yet, so it always takes a little bit time after an update. But let's look at the options, plugins, and plugins that do not ship with Rhino. Live code, it's in there. So let's see. I'm just now loading it actually manually here, but we should be able to just run the command and it should load at that point. So let's try yester live code command 1. So we are asked to pick a location, just click somewhere. I clicked at this location. We can click many times. At the moment we are not doing anything with the point other than just typing it out. And now let's try changing, for instance, width. Let's type the W and then give 20, I guess. Nope, I did not type correctly, but now it's there. So width we have changed to 20, length and 10, and height are still 10. Now let's change height to 15 and length to 5, for instance. So you see, now we were able to change the settings, and now at the end, actually I'm not sure what did not print anything command line to discern between cancel and accept, but I'm now going to press enter, and let's do this again, and I'm going to press escape. Okay, so maybe it would be nice to write out something here. For this particular plugin, I don't think I'm going to do localization. But if you were to do that, you could, for instance, you could, for instance, for the command prompt, for instance, you could add a localize pair. I have to search localize, I think it's called. It's not correct yet. These are some macros essentially, or just placeholders for this is what I was looking for. So localize string, localize string. Let's see where that is at. Oh, it's maybe just in the Rhino UI namespace. So I still, I think what you would do is add one of these and then set the English one to what we just said, and then for instance for Finnish you would say valitse piste tai paikka, and then you could change between the two, I think. But to be honest, I'm not entirely sure how this system exactly works, so maybe I should find it out, and we can look at that in a later stream. So we now have our basic command for our plugin, and next is going to be to do actually something with it. Actually, let's add here a helper variable, so it will be the point 3d point, and that equals point 3d.unset. So we start with a non-set point. So if a user just enters right after running the command, we should be able to determine whether the user had set a point or not. And here we take out the type declaration because we don't want to overwrite the point member or the point variable that's in the scope up outside of the for loop. Let's type here Rhino app.write line, and then command cancelled. Now then we know what we did. Right. So that's our loop handling, and now we have done the loop. We can add the object, and in a moment we get started with the display conduit. I don't think we are going to actually be able to write it today, but let's see. But I just wanted to wait, what am I doing? I said I'm going to add the object. And this one actually we need to move a bit up so it's logically where it is supposed to be, over here. So once we get out of the loop and are still in the command, we can add the object to the specifications given by the user on the command line. So once we have done this adding part, then we get started with the display conduit. So the idea is that while the user make still the changes on the command line, we draw with the display conduit what it is, what the user would be adding. Wait, sorry for the jumping back and forth. I should not do that. So add the object. Just let me know if you get seasick. Then I try to add the object to be a bit slower with adding using the mouse. I know I don't like it when other presenters are quick with scrolling and all that, so I try to be mindful of that. Add the object. So what are we going to add actually? I guess at the moment we're just going to add a simple box. And I guess easiest would be to just add let's see. Oh, do we have easy create box? Oh, I think it's on the other. Let's just ask here, create box. Nothing. Oh. So we are going to do this one, I guess. So we have a plane that's going to be the around the point that we created. So the plane we can create with just this a point and a up factor, so we're going just to use the Z factor. That would be I believe there is here a Z-axis, so let's do that. We need a plane. Oh. Plane P, and that is going to be new plane, and that is on the point, and then using vector 3d.z, z-axis. And then for our box, what were we supposed to give? I have to admit that normally I just use data that's already created. So I have to look this up a bit. What do we get here? Oh, I think we are just going to do this. Yeah. So we need to have an enumerable from points. And I think that should be just a list. So our box is box is a new box taking the plane P and points. So we need to create the points list still, and that's going to be I'm going to add later on. We are going to need a list of points, so let's also add system collections generic, I believe it's called, using system collections generic, and then we make here a list of point 3D points, this new list, and points add with. I wouldn't be surprised if there is a better way of initializing this list. But this should work just as fine. Now we have a box, and then we need to add the box still to the document. So and again, I sometimes forget how these things work, so I just read through our documentation. There was this one, right? No, plain. There was somewhere code for this. Oh, so we are going to I think we are going to create a brep from our box. So let's do that. And that would be brep box brep is box dot what was it called? To brep. I assume that this is going to work. Let's see, can it actually work? Let's see, where was our box? Or maybe that's not going to work, who knows? Oh yes, there's a to brep. And there's also extrusion. Well, let's go with brep, brep, it should be good. Oh, what did it take? To brep takes nothing. And then when we now have the brep, we can add the object. And for that we need the document that gets into the command, and that is this one. This is the document we have. So we're going to do doc.objects. We are going to add the object to the objects table. And it was add brep, right? Yes, add brep. Add brep box brep. And that should be it. There is still a redraw here as well, so let's just do that as well. So doc views redraw. Now when we look our code, width, height, length, height. I'm not very smart, am I? So I was just being a bit dense. I forgot that those were not points. There was still an interval. What can we give here? An interval is just what? I guess we are going to do an interval with 0 to whatever the number is that we gave. Let's do that. And yes, here code completion would have already showed me earlier on that this is not going to work. So let's not use these. The intervals are actually from what Rhino geometry namespace, so we do interval With interval is this a structure? Okay, so we're just going to do new interval 0 until width, and 2 others. So this is going to be width with length, and this one is going to have width replaced with height. No, but not like that. Let's do it again. Like this. And our box is then going to be box equals 0 equals new box, and then the plane and the different intervals with interval, height of length, interval and height interval. Let's recreate the code. Much better, no more complaints. But before I forget, let's remove the mention of the generics collection, because we don't need it anymore. Let's do it like this. Right. Let's compile this and then see if we have this object added properly to our document. Start Rhino. Oh, I think they are now cleaning our fences. They should have done that already last week or the week before. So let's see. Yester live code command 1, and now the command is automatically loaded. The previous time I did it manually, but just, oh, what? I pressed command. I mean I pressed enter, but what did happen? Did I make a mistake? Not uncommon. I'm pressing the wrong buttons here. I did not press cancel, I'm pretty sure. Let's try this again then. Pick a point, press enter. Let's see. So we did not get nothing. I wonder if this is down to my keyboard, which is of course also possible. Let's try my other enter key. Or maybe I first change width a bit. 15. Cancelled still. But, interesting. So width 5. No, that's not a 5. Width 5. Maybe press enter? No. Oh, maybe Yeah, I already know. So to be able to do this nothing, I have to set my command or the GetPoint part to accept nothing. So, and that I have to do before we start doing things. I have to quickly check. Right, so over here. No, not over here. Over here. So let's add the user is supposed to press enter when they are happy with the given settings. To this end, we need to ensure that our GetPoint instance actually can sounds maybe a bit weird, but that's how this part works, except nothing. Yeah, I could have done some debugging as well, but I find that it is also good to first just look at the code and try to think about what is going on before jumping to the debugger, mainly because it forces your brain to focus on that code instead of just waiting and idling for the debugger to hit the breakpoint. And in this case, the breakpoint would not have helped because this part was missing and it does not show in a breakpoint really. Wait, what did I do? Ctrl+Shift+B, lit process. So let's now create it, and then we build again .NET build, and that went fine. 0 warnings, 0 errors. That's always what we like to see. We start Rhino. And start our command. We press in here and now enter. Oh, it worked. Always nice to get success like this. So I think for now, and this was very simple way of adding an object. So let's actually rerun this again. A different place, and then verify that we actually can change those settings. So let's have a 15 width, length of 2, and a height of 50. And this works. So the next step for this command is going to be to add the display conduit. I think since this was nice logoing for now, I think I'm going to do this in the next stream, the actual display conduit part. But at least now we have, let me pull up the code again, a clear way of how, or clear view of how the options are created for a get class. In this case we have a GetPoint class. I remembered that we have to actually also tell this GetPoint instance to be able to accept nothing. And as it says, if you want to allow the user to be able to press enter in order to skip selection or anything like that, you have to call this method beforehand with true. If you don't want that, then as we saw, just pressing enter is the same as essentially as cancelling. We have our command prompt, pick location and enter when done, and we added our 3 options. And the Rhino get classes work in such a way that you always on your instance call get, or at least in this when you do only one thing. There are more intricacies in here as well, but for this simple case you call get, you get a get result value out, and you have to check what this get result value is. It's either a point or an option or something else. In our case we are going to look for nothing and for cancel, and nothing is the enter key that's being pressed. And I guess we need to improve our documentation, that it's important to use AcceptNothing on your get class instance before this is going to actually break, I mean be given from the get method. And here in our get result option case, we just read out all the options we have added. We don't have to that way figure out which of the options was changed. This is just easy way, just do all of them at the same time. And the same for point, we just click point and do not look at the other parts, because we know we have handled our stuff. We can go right back to the beginning of our loop. And through this loop, like this, sorry for fast mouse movements again. So through this loop here, we are able to keep interacting with the user until the user actually presses the enter. And again, I don't really like eternal loops like this, but while true is other way to write it, but it just means that you have to make sure that you have ways to exit your eternal loop. And cancelling, again, we just cancel the command. We do not want to act on any of the input the user may have been doing or setting at that point that the user pressed cancel. And then just adding of the object. I'm not sure if I want to at some point write more explanation of how this is added. I think this is quite obvious and to the point for this this documentation. That said, as with that I'm going to do the display conduit next week, I think that as a completely different thing, but still Rhino code related, what I want to do, and it's something I need to do anyway, is fix a bug in RhinoCycles live. So if you are still interested, just hang around. And it's a very simple bug, really. The error is mainly for developers, and that is when this here is being called off the main thread. So what this does, this part of the code, or let's start this with the name of this property. So this property is used by RhinoCycles to determine the so-called pixel size, and pixel size is if you want to have a one-to-one rendering, so really sharp rendering, pixel size needs to be 1. But for large monitors with high pixel counts, that can be really slow. So there's this heuristic, very simple, that if you're over, or if you're on a 4K or over 4K, pixel size is, the default setting is going to be 2, and for 8K the pixel size is going to be 4. Now the problem is that this screen class, let's see if I can get, so screen, this is a class that one apparently is not allowed to access outside of the main thread. And for developers of Rhino who are using Rhino and have the material editor visible with materials in, or say the rendering panel with environment previews, those get rendered by cycles, by RhinoCycles, and those are done on a separate thread, not on the main thread, and that has Etho.forms throw an exception here. And this default pixel size based on monitor resolution is being called all the time. Every time a new render session is started for every preview, this is being called, and that's throwing an exception, and that's very annoying for developers. So what I'm going to do is just take out this pixel count and make sure that this is being called only at the beginning of when Rhino starts or the plugin is loaded. I believe we are able to access this screen instance at that point. So I was thinking that I'm just going to add a new static public int. Or actually it's not going to be public because I'm going to use it privately, a private int, and just this prefix with underbar pixel count. Maybe call it monitor pixel count. Okay, so and at the moment this is just all regular coding. Wait, not like that. Not with the literate approach, but I'm going to do that actually when I'm starting to actually rewrite this plugin. So int pixel size is 1. Let's at least return that. Right, and have our documentation, of course. And let's call it 1, 2, 3, and that's going to be pixel count provided by the main monitor where Rhino resides, and note is on Mac OS. We are always looking at the primary screen regardless of where Rhino is opened, and that's just because there is no good way to do this main window part. And now we can copy paste this code. Wait, I'm making a mistake here, but let's move this anyway here, because I need to do this in a different way. This code is going to go elsewhere. I'm just going to make a simple property out of this. Pixel size is going to be monitor pixel count. Wait, no, int pixel count is going to be monitor pixel count, and setting this is actually going to be, I'm not sure what I'm doing here. It looks very confusing, but let's fix that. So wait, the pixel size part we don't need at all. This code we are going to move to our plugin loading, and this is going to be our RhinoCycles core plugin. And let's put it so we have here what initialize cycles, C cycles. So onload, maybe put it in here. Initializing cycles here. So maybe here is a good moment to do this. So what we need to do now is we have this new monitor pixel count render engine utilities utilities dot. How is that going to work? Let me check. Also, it's on the RhinoCycles core. RhinoCycles core dot render engine utilities dot monitor pixel count, and I guess we have to ensure that we can actually access all this. What is it? Render engine, not even utils, it's just the file name. So let's, that can't be private, it has to be internal. So let's change that in a moment. Rhino Eto app, where is that from? Let's see. Rhino Eto app, main window. I'm just quickly using exactly that really nice IntelliSense. So it's rhino.ui that I need here. Don't really like that having it here, but it's currently only available through that, so let's do that. And so let's see. What does it say? Inaccessible due to its protection level. So as I mentioned, this needs to be internal. We don't need other people messing about with it. As in people writing code that for some reason want to use this. Come on. Yeah, yes, of course, it needs to be public. So the Rhino plugin is structured in actually 3 ways. There is RhinoCycles core, which is a DLL, and this code that we now look at lives in that. And then there's the RhinoCycles plugin, which provides the ray traced viewport mode. And then there's the Rhino Render Cycles plugin, which provides the Rhino render part. Thanks that you like the keyboard. I like it as well. Can we use Python? In Rhino you can use Python, yes, but at the moment we are looking at RhinoCycles code, and that's written in C#. And also this stream has been on about writing a C# plugin. No doubt I will be doing live coding streams with Python in Rhino. So just keep tuned on the channel, and you should be able to get some streams in the future about using Python in Rhino. So this now works. I have to compile this now. Actually, I'm sure I'm 7.x. So you get to see a tool I wrote for myself using F#. And it's my builder tool. Just a moment, I need to find where it is. Right. Let's show this for a moment, and this is going to be fbuilder exit. You can move that out again and then just show the builder actually. And what I like to do is actually build all versions of Rhino, so both release and debug at the same time. But for now, let's do just debug, I guess. So behind the scenes, it's just calling msbuild on our project files, and I wrote this because I like to visually see where we are at with the building process. This takes a moment, but when it's done, we should be able to start debug build of Rhino and not have exception messages in the command line of Rhino. On streaming about Python, one of the things that I'll be doing in the near future is actually looking at Rhino whip, so the upcoming Rhino 8 version that we're working on. My coworker Esan has been working on C-Python integration, and it's working quite nicely actually, so it would be nice to do some streaming on that as well, just typing some Python scripts in the new Rhino code editor in Rhino 8, the whip version. We are getting close to having Rhino built, and then my code actually lives in Rhino plugins with big libraries. We wait a bit more for that. While this is compiling, maybe I can quickly show a bit the RhinoCycles code more. So the RhinoCycles plugin itself, this is the entry point for Rhino loading. We do skip enabling of OpenCL in many cases, especially using people using the OpenCL SDK to get OpenCL support on the CPU has been problematic. It caused lots of crashes, so there's this skip OpenCL part. Also certain devices caused crashes, especially Intel 530, I believe, GPUs. Question: Rhino is released roughly every 4 years, but has the development of Rhino 8 already started? Yes, it has started, and on our discourse, you should be able to follow the progress of it actually. So let me see if I can get quickly my discourse showing. Just a moment. Right, so here's discourse. Oh. And to be able to check what's going on in Rhino 8 at the moment, in the Serengeti category of our discourse is all the WIP work in progress that is going on for the next Rhino, in our case Rhino 8. And the Rhino 8 feature that I just was talking about is this Rhino code. So it's a C Python integration and a C# scripting code editor essentially. And yes, this has been being worked on already quite a bit this year. Wait, so one of the things this WIP has been done is let's go to the very last one of this. Oh wait, no, that's the wrong one. What was I going to show? So we have let's go to the it's called service, what's that tag? Service release. It's not a service release, so it's a service release candidate, I guess. There should be a post where all the, I think it's this one. Yes, so the latest update was released this morning, I believe. And these are the things that are in now for this one. Let's see. So there are features, so clipping plane has been worked on quite a bit. It's cool stuff. What more? Lots of bugs being fixed in 8 already. So if you just look at the, I guess one of the bigger features is improvements to clipping plane, and then the Rhino code project. And these are the things that stand out most at the moment. But just go through the topic, you will be able to see all the changes have been made since, let's see, the first build of 8 was created in January this year. Lots of bug fixes here actually already for the very first one, but at that point many of the devs were still working on Rhino 7 stabilizing and bug fixing, especially myself. I've been focused on Rhino 8 properly only since after the summer. And for me that's going to be an upgrade of Cycles engine to the latest Cycles X engine. That's going to be released actually also in Blender 3 begin December. But all the good stuff in there should be available in Rhino 8 at some point. At least that's what I'm working on. But you can see here in this discourse thread all the changes that have been made. Well, there are sometimes times that there were no specific commits to Rhino 8 as some specific fixes tagged for Rhino 8, but fixes that we find for fixes for bugs that we find in 7 generally also get merged into 8. So that's why it says here nothing to report this week, except for all the fixes also in Rhino 7.5 release candidate 4. And I believe our Rhino WIP release cadence at the moment is 1 every week. So every week you should be able to get new stuff. Yeah, the YAC package management part, how should I call it? So we have the package manager and it's built on top of YAC, and that indeed is really nice way to for developers to release their plugins. This is taking a bit longer than I was thinking. Well, I'll just blab on for now. This is how I would work anyway. When I have made a change, I need to test it, so I compile, and since I need to test, I compile. And then generally I look through discourse if I can help other devs or users with their problems. But this is looking like it's going to take quite a while. So I think now that we have our first command do actually something useful by adding that box based on the settings given by the user, I think I'm going to end the stream here, and thanks for all the people who have been attending today. As always, keep asking questions during the stream, but also after, either in the comments of the stream or hit me up on Discourse. And if you go to Discourse to ask questions, please make them public questions, because that way we can have other people also benefit from your questions and our answers. So I guess that's it for me. I'm going to let Rhino compile and then test, and you people now can go do whatever you need to do. Thanks for joining. Bye.